Hi girls, this is just a brief video now to go through a couple of little bits in terms of all the great work that you've done with water. So I've had a look at your exam questions. That question 4, I think it was 2017, was the only one that really stood out to me as a common mistake across the lines. I'm not going to get a chance, girls, to properly go through it. I mean, you have the marking schemes and I could see that, and that your answers were pretty much perfect for what you needed. Some of you gave a bash to calculations with the experimental questions. Well done. And the ones that actually made the attempts, you did really, really well. If not full marks, almost full marks out of them. But in terms of calculations, girls, there's only so much you can do remotely, and you do need to see the calculations done one-to-one as you need, and you do need to have that experience. You're in the lucky boat that you're in 5th year, so what you've done with water, that's perfect. You've got your theory, and we won't be going back through the theory again. From what I can see, you've managed it perfectly. There's no issues. But there are a couple of calculations that I would prefer to do, like parts per million. That's going to need a little bit more work. Percentages of O2, BOD, those calculations are going to need to be done in a classroom environment. And I can certainly do a video on them if you ask me to, but we have all next year, girls, even if we don't get back for too long this year, or whatever the story is. Like, I mean, they change the news every day. I don't know anything you don't know. The second I know something, you'll know, because then at least we'll know where we're going. But in terms of those calculations, BOD, parts per million, suspended solids, dissolved solids, I'm going to do those in class. If we get the chance at the end of this year, brilliant, or beginning of next year, okay? So we're going to move on to the next section now. There are a couple of you girls who I'm still chasing for work, and I've notified the school at this stage. They've asked me to come back and email you individually, so I'm going to do that. You'll expect to get emails from me between today and tomorrow, and if I don't hear back from you by Friday, then girls, that will be a situation where it'll have to be elevated further, and that's they're calling parents, I think, is what they're up to. Okay, so where are we going to go next is the next thing, and I was taking a look in terms of what I thought that you could manage kind of remotely to a certain extent, and there's quite a few chapters that have chunks of theory that you'll be able to cope with. But the biggest one that I could see, well, there's two choices. It's chemical bonding, and if we don't get back before the end of the year, both of these we'll attempt and take a look at. There's chemical bonding, and then there's fuels and heats of reaction. Okay, so we're going to start with fuels and heats of reaction, but I'm not going to ask you to go and try and do all of this, because some of this you're going to need help on. So there's a section here called hydrocarbons, and that works on naming different hydrocarbons, etc. So I'm going to do videos on each of the hydrocarbon naming over the next couple of weeks. But there's a huge chunk of this that before we get started that I'd normally leave students to do to a certain extent themselves. So the introduction, oil refinery and its products, hydrogen, those 3 sections, 21.1, 21.3 and 21.4, you should be able to manage by yourself. So I'm going to show you what I'm asking you to take a look at, okay, and what I want you to try and achieve. When you do it, girls, I'm going to set this as an assignment. Can you submit the assignment? And when you click submit assignment, you can take pictures of your work and then you can submit it that way. That way it's just easier for me to chase the individuals who are missing pieces of work, rather than the way I've been doing it, which has just been very slow and laborious. So here, the first part of this is all theory. Anything in the green box you need, and these 4 you should be able to learn, okay? And these are ones you have to learn off. There's no shortcut here, so there's nothing that I'm going to show you or talk to you about that's going to make this any easier. Methane, ethane, propane and butane. So what you notice is methane has 1 carbon, ethane has 2 carbons, 3 carbons, 4 carbons, okay? And they're surrounded by hydrogens. Carbon makes 4 bonds because it's in group 4. So there are always 4 things or 4 lines out of every carbon, always. So you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you count each carbon, there are 4 lines in each of them, okay? So if you can take a look and draw those ones out into your copy, along with the green sections that are your definitions, and read the chapter. And then if you come along here, there's definitions again in the green box, all of that is what you need. And then here, this is where I'll say just stop at that point. You're not going to be able to do the naming by yourself with great ease. So you're not going to do that naming. You're going to skip that section and you're going to move back on to the next section. And again, the mandatory experiment you're not going to be doing for this period in time. There's a huge section there that you're skipping, and you're going to come on here to the oil refinery products. This diagram is needed. You need to learn it. You need to be able to draw it, and you need to know each of the sections. And it comes up all the time. This is a question 6 on your paper, so that's something you have to draw into your copy, and you have to learn this theory. Okay. And I'll put my notes up again for you, but they're nothing that this isn't already in this book, okay? Again, all this theory, octane number, factors affecting octane number, making petrol, all of that is possible for you, okay? And then the hydrogen section, which is just these 2 little pieces, which you just have to learn, which if you were with me is where I'd say we have to learn. And then stop at 21.5. Okay, so what do I want you to do, girls? I want you to read those sections. I want you to practice the drawing of the splitting of oil, which is called fractional distillation. And I want you to have a read through that chapter. And I want you to come back. I want you to send me, when I set this up as an assignment, send me pictures of this completed and the notes that you've taken from your book. And then come back to me with any questions you have on what you've read. Okay, and then I'll do a video on that. I'll do a video on the naming slowly but surely. And I just want to ask you girls, can you, when you're submitting this, can you write at the top of it or tell me or send me a message or something? Do you have your workbooks at home? Because if you don't, I don't have my workbook either, which is a disaster. We normally use that for the naming, but if you have your workbooks at home, I'll be able to, I remember the name, the page numbers and the questions. And I can get one of you to send a picture of all of the pages of 21 if you have them. But if you don't have them, there's no point in us stressing about it. We'll just use what's in the textbook and I can make out worksheets. So if you could let me know if any of you have that workbook, because if you do, then I'll get you to take a picture and send them to me and I can work from there. All right, girls, wish you the best luck. I know this is unusual and it's strange. All we can do is do our best. There's nothing here that if you're having severe difficulties that we won't be able to pick up next year. You're in the lucky boat that you're in 5th year. And there will be, you know, they are aware of this. Every student in 5th year chemistry is doing the same. So let's see how far we can get with remote learning and then we'll pick up the pieces next year. Okay, talk to you soon. Stay well and stay away from each other, girls. That's the major theme for us all at the moment. It's hard work being stuck at home. I've pretty much given up on it myself, but we have no choice. So let's stay safe, keep yourselves well, girls, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.